Buenos días. Muchachos y muchachas. My name is Antonio de Padua, Maria Severina Lopez de Santa Ana y Perez de Leron. A little bit longer than your name. No? Does someone have a longer name than that? Ah, and that not? Yes. That is what I am known as. Antonio Lopez. They shortened it down in the history books. Many people know me simply as Santa Ana. I was born in the year 1794 in the city of Veracruz. Does anyone know what Veracruz is? In Mexico. Does anyone know where in Mexico Veracruz is? Anyone? Yes, what part of Mexico? It's on the seacoast. It was the very first city established by the conquistadores in the year 1518. The conquistadores, who are the conquistadores? Do you know the names of any of the conquerors, the conquistadores? Anyone? Do you know the name Christopher Columbus? Ah, yes. How about Narvaez? Coronado. Yes, someone's heard of Coronado. Now, Veracruz, where I was born, was a beautiful city on the ocean with the great merchant ships, the sailing ships from all over the world coming into the port. So my father wanted me to be a merchant, an international merchant. There was only one thing I always wanted to be. Un soldado. A soldier. So, when I was 16 years old, my father permitted me to enter as a cadet to the military academy at Veracruz, the 5th Military Regiment. Now, what is a cadet? C-A-D-E-T. That is correct. A student who's not just going to become a soldier, but a commanding officer in the army. The year was 1810. In the year 1811, something very important happened in Mexico. Now, you're familiar with the term Mexico. You call it Mexico. In Spanish, it is. What happened in Mexico in the year 1811? Anyone? Yes? But that, before that? Well, that was very close. What happened in America in 1776, first of all? What happened in 1776? Yes, and they used to be part of what nation? British. England, that's right. A part of England. They declared independence. So what happened in 1811 in Mexico? They declared independence from what nation? Yeah, it was close. España. Spain. 2 years later, I was involved then in a battle, part of the Mexican War of Independence in Spain. It was the largest and the bloodiest battle ever fought on the soil of Texas. What was that battle? Does anyone know the name? Not that one. Not the Alamo. No, it was part of the Mexican Revolution. It was the Battle of Medina. The Battle of Medina. Now, during this time, there were a group of Mexicans under a general named Gutierrez and a group of Americans under an officer named McGee. They built an army of 1,500 fighters, including American Indians, and they converged on the city of, it was the largest, only large city, it wasn't large, but the only major city in Texas, the city of San Antonio. If you ever go to San Antonio, there is a place called Medina Lake. It is on the Medina River. There 3,000 men fought. And I, under the famous General Joaquin de Arredondo, was part of the victorious force of Spain. We destroyed all of our enemies. I returned to fight in other battles. Now, throughout my career, I've had one problem that has come back repeatedly. Strikes me in the leg, the thorn in my side. That problem, chaos. Texas. I just told you about the first time in Texas in 1813, big problem. Now, as the revolution continued, or the War of Independence, I was on the side of the King of Spain until 1821, when I decided I became part of the revolutionaries. Why did I join the revolutionaries right in the middle of a battle? Absolutely, yes. I think that's true. Yes. Anybody else? Any other reason why I might have switched sides? Okay. If you are ever involved in a revolution, it is a good idea at the end of the revolution to be on the winning side. I was on the winning side. And I went forward to have many important duties in Mexico. Now, in the year 1821, Mexico achieved their independence. And in the province of Texas, they had two problems. A small problem and a big problem. The small problem was one of illegal immigration. You've heard that term before? But it was not Mexicans going to America. It was the other way around. It was Americans wanting to come into Mexico. But that was still a small problem. The big problem was Indian raids from Texas. Two tribes were invading Texas. What were the names of these two tribes? The Comanches and the... Oh, no. Close. Apaches. The Comanches and the Apaches, they would invade hundreds of miles into Mexico, burn, pillage, loot cities, taking away their horses, their possessions, even their children, and bringing them back and selling them in markets in America. Something had to be done. The Mexican government came up with a solution to the problem. Since Americans were wanting to come into Texas, instead of bringing them in as enemies, they decided to bring them in as friends. All they had to do was pledge allegiance to Mexico, become Mexican citizens, and join the Catholic Church. Now, they were not very good Catholics, most of them, but they joined the Catholic Church. And they received large amounts of land, 9 square miles apiece of land. That's a lot of land. 3 miles this way, 3 miles that way. So they were happy living in Texas. They came by the thousands. Now, in Mexico, including Texas at that time, there were 2 political parties. You know what political parties are. What are the 2 political parties in the United States? Democrats and the Republicans. What were the 2 political parties in Mexico at that time? They were the Centralistas, the Centralists, and the Federalistas, the Federalists. What was the difference? The Centralistas thought that there should be one ruler like an emperor in Mexico City who would rule all the people. Federalists thought that each region, each state of Mexico, just as America, the United States has many states, so does Mexico have many states. They thought that each state should have their own governor. It should be a democracy. What side were the Texans on? The Centralistas or the Federalists? What side was I on? Wrong! I was a Federalista. I was a friend of Stephen F. Austin and the Texans, for I thought each region of Texas should govern itself. The Americans came by the thousands. In 1830, there were 10 times more Americans in Texas. In 1832, I was elected President of Mexico. I became President of Mexico 11 different times. Sometimes I was elected, kicked out, and sometimes I gathered an army and took over by force. But I was President of Mexico 11 different times. Now, when I became President, I realized I had made a mistake in judgment. You think I am inflexible? You think I'm a man who does not realize when I have made a mistake? No. I realized at that time that when I thought the Mexican people were able to function as a modern democracy, I was wrong. What they needed, was one strong central leader to rule everyone in Mexico City. Now, who do you think I had in mind to be this? Yes, me. Do you agree? What? Those who disagree, I want them taken out and tried. Now, do you agree? No. I will forgive you this. Unfortunately, the other leaders of Mexico also disagreed. 11 different states formed armies against me. So I took matters into my own hand. I raised up an army, and I went to the Mexican state of Zacatecas. Has anyone here ever heard of the state of Zacatecas? Yes, yes. It's halfway between Mexico City and the Rio Grande River, a silver mining town. And there, my army destroyed their army. News spread all over Mexico. Don't mess with Santa Ana. News spread to Texas. They declared their independence. So I took my army across the Rio Grande to the city of San Antonio. There was fought a very famous battle, the Battle of the Alamo. Now, let's see what you know about the Alamo. Who is the commander of the Alamo? William B. Travis. What other names do you know? Any other people who were at the Alamo? Okay. Well, there might have been some of those. Yes, Susanna Dickinson, very good. Davy Crockett, and he was not there. But there was someone for whom a knife is named. Hey. Anybody? Jim Bowie. Have you ever heard of a big long knife on the Bowie? I gave them the chance to surrender and to be peaceful. They refused. So I destroyed them. It was the law. Revolutionaries were to be put to death. It was the law. I went on. 3 weeks later, there was another place where they formed an army against me. The name of that town was? No. Goliad. Who was the commander at Goliad? Colonel James Fannin. He also defied me. So I destroyed him. Texans had declared their independence, and they had appointed a man to be the general of the Army of Texas. What was his name? Sam Houston. But at that time, he had an army of only 400 men. I had an army of 4,000 men. So I put them in 4 different groups to go after different people in Texas. Sam Houston retreated. He kept retreating, always recruiting soldiers and people to fight. So that on the 20th of April, 1836, the Mexican army was face to face with Sam Houston's army in a place called San Jacinto, or in Spanish, San Jacinto. Can you say that? San Jacinto. Yes. Now we knew that they were going to attack us the next day. So my men worked feverishly all night long, building a wall of separation between the Mexican army and the Texans. We took the saddles from our horses. We took the supply crates that we carried our food and all of our supplies. We stacked them up. We took logs, brush, anything we could find. All night long, we piled them up so that at 6 a.m. the next morning, we were waiting for them with our rifles pointed down the hill. But they did not come. So we waited, and we waited, we waited again until noon. They did not come. We knew they would not attack that day. You don't start battles in the middle of the afternoon. The sun is going to set. You wouldn't be able to see. You wouldn't know who you were fighting. So we were sure they would. So we took a siesta. What is a siesta? A nap. A nice, you would take a siesta. A nice afternoon nap. About 3 o'clock that afternoon, while we were taking our siesta, we began to hear music coming from the Texas camp. But it was not a military march. It was the sweet strains of an Irish love song. Little did we know. Sad Houston. And at 3:30 in the afternoon, they attacked. It took us by surprise. And in just 18 minutes' time, the battle was over. I was captured the next day. I thought that would be the last day of my life. But Sam Houston was a clever fellow. He knew that I was worth more to the Texans alive than dead. For you see, I was the president of Mexico. I had the authority to sign a treaty of peace, to surrender. I had the authority as commander of the army to order my army back to Mexico, which means the battle would be over. In return, they gave me my life. It was a pretty good deal, don't you think? After all, how could I be of service to the people of Mexico in the future if I were not alive? So I returned to Mexico. But I was unpopular when you lose battles where you do not gain popularity. So I retired to my hacienda, my ranch, and waited for the opportunity to return. That happened in 1838 when the French decided to I gathered up an army in Veracruz, and I defeated the French army, but something terrible happened. I was wounded in my leg. There's a wound there. My leg had to be amputated. They didn't have anesthesia. But though I lost my leg, I regained my popularity. I became a hero of the people. In fact, they had a big parade, and in the middle of the parade was a carriage. And the carriage, there was a glass case that contained my leg. And the people cheered as it passed by, and they cheered for me. Now, in 1836, after the Battle of San Jacinto, what happened in Texas? 1836. Texas became a republic. Yes, an independent nation, a republic with their own government. By 1846, again, I was president of Mexico, commander. What happened in Texas in the year 1846? They joined the United States as the 28th state. That created a problem. Problem, yes. The Americans thought the border, does anyone know the problem created? Well, yes, Mexico thought the border should be at the Nueces River that goes into Corpus Christi. The Americans thought the border should be which river? The Rio Grande, 80 miles to the south. So there was a war. What was the name of the war? The Mexican-American War. It lasted for 2 years. I was the commander and president, and we lost. We had to relinquish the land, declare that the border was but even worse. We sold to them for $15 million all of the northern provinces of Mexico. Now that was no small tract of land, for it included California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. 1/3 of the landmass of the United States used to belong to Mexico. After the American War, the Mexican-American War, it was ceded over to the United States. I was in. That means they kicked me out of it. What? I came back. Yes, I came back. In 1853, again, I was president of Mexico. What was the problem that I had? Texas! Texas! In 1853, the United States wanted to build a railroad across Texas all the way to California. They had a problem. The problem was the Rocky Mountains. Now, why were the Rocky Mountains a problem in building a railroad? Yes, going is very difficult. What they needed was a mountain pass, where the mountains come down from America, the Rockies, and from Mexico, the Sierra Madre Mountains come down to a flat place where they can cross on flat land. What is the name of the place with this mountain pass? El Paso. El Paso. It means the pass. So, they needed the mountain pass. They needed the Mesilla Valley to the west. And I, as president, needed money. So, we sold the Mesilla Valley to the United States. And there are some people who say that I put some of that money in my pocket. Surely you would not believe such rumors. No, you believe it. But once again, I was exiled from Mexico. Where did I go? Anybody? No, not to my ranch. No, not to Texas. I went to New York City. Yes, New York City. And there I did something for which each and every one of you owe to me a debt of gratitude. Yes, I will explain. What was I doing in New York City? Well, I was trying to raise money so I could hire an army and get back into power in Mexico. I had a brilliant idea. Well, you see, in Mexico, there is a tree called the sapotilla tree. And the inner bark of the sapotilla tree has a rubber-like substance. They needed rubber in America to make carriage wheels. I was living with an inventor named Thomas Adams. I told him of this tree, and he invested a huge sum of money to produce synthetic rubber. Unfortunately, the idea failed. He lost all of his money. Senor Adams was someone who gave up easily. He noticed that on summer evenings as we sat on the porch, I would chew on the sapotilla. So he took the inner bark of the sapotilla tree, he mixed it with a little sugar, a little color, and produced a substance known as chicle, chewing gum. Did you know that it was I, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, who brought chewing gum to America? Yes. You're welcome.
I don't like it.
You're welcome.
I don't like gum.
So from my life, you learn many things. One of the most important. You know that I have had many victories and many defeats. Great tragedies, even like the loss of the day. But the lesson is when you go down, you must come back again. You must not admit defeat. You must get up, try again. So I leave you today with these words. Viva Mexico! Viva los Estados Unidos, and even Viva Texas. Thank you very much. Any questions? I had a field here. What happened when you lost? They installed a very good wooden leg. And so I have many wooden legs. I use for different things. Sometimes I walk with them. How did I get what that? Oh, it was in a battle. I was shot in the leg. It shattered my leg. There. Oh, this is a traditional hat. It looks very much, if I had time with it, it would look like a Napoleon. I was a big fan of Napoleon, for I consider myself the Napoleon of the West. That's why I have an adaptation of the Napoleonic hat. Oh, she says she owes Senor Adams gratitude. She should be taken out and flogged for that. No, it is hard. Yes. Anybody else? Well, it took a while. The Adams Chewing Gum Factory was formed, and then the Wrigley Company. And Mr. Wrigley made it famous. Are we up to time now? Okay. Thank you, muchachos and muchachas, for your kind attention.